Hi, it's Chris Moore with Senior Remodeling Experts. Welcome to Aging in Place is a Team Sport. It's a video series where we talk to different providers. We explore how families, professionals, and communities can come together to help older adults live safely, comfortably, and independently at home. I'm here to guide you, connect you with the right resources, and help make the rest of your life the best of your life. Welcome back to Aging in Place is a Team Sport. I'm Chris Moore with Senior Remodeling Experts. And as always, we're here to talk about aging in place and all of the different players that come on the field and make it possible and enjoyable and productive for people to stay in their homes throughout the course of their life. So today we have Jay Setchell. Welcome, Jay.
Glad to be here.
I'm doing well. So tell me about your position in the team sport of aging in place.
Where I recognize it the most is that, and that's what interested me in your, in the introduction to your show that I'd read about was the issue that I'm mostly paralyzed. And I've been dead multiple times and they've got me back. I've been near death several times and I've had 73 surgeries. So I've dealt with, I don't have much that works. My left arm works, but it's had several surgeries and other things. Other than that, this arm moves a little bit, but it's mostly paralyzed. So I've always, for years, I've had to look at what I'm buying, what I'm building, because we continue to build even before we started to build homes that we had built. We were very specific about it and we're very involved with it. But that's where, I thought, I got to reach out because I live with it. And that gives a little bit of a difference of your outlook when you're a builder and you're paralyzed and your family deals with it. It gives you a different outlook on what you're doing for the client.
Right. So what would you say in the home that you're living in now and homes that you have lived in? What are the features that maybe people don't think about ahead of time that have been of a benefit to you in having a home that's, shall we say, user-friendly and making
better? Well, when we built this house, we'll be in it 16 years this October, but we'd already built several other homes before this. And here, I made sure I had ramps coming up to the back door from the garage because instead of being down, if you walk straight out my back door and out towards the refrigerator, you're going to have a 4.5 inch drop off and you're going to fall down if you don't look where you're walking. Well, I don't want to drive off there in my wheelchair. But I go out there and make a ramp or go down the ramp. Out the back door, I've got a ramp off of the back, all the back accesses are ramps. One thing that we always did in all the homes we've ever built, I never used knobs. I hate knobs, number one. But handles, they're convenient for somebody that doesn't even have arthritis or paralysis issue because you can go in with a bag of groceries in each arm and hit the door handle with your elbow and at least get it knocked open. So there's that kind of stuff. We made sure like your faucets, where your microwave's located. When we deal with some people that are older and they're shorter or they have some disabilities, a lot of people put the microwave. You can look at 1,000 homes now, and microwaves are generally above the stove top, but they're very, very. I can't even get to one with my wheelchair, and it goes up and down. And so our microwave is located above the double oven or the oven or whatever in the wall. And had we thought about it, I would have probably filled that in and done one on the counter. But since my wheelchair goes up and down, I can get to it with no problem. But in what we've done since then for people is make sure, hey, let's build one in the counter. Let's build it here. Let's put it under the oven because the ovens are usually, they go down so low anyhow. And so that's been an option. Handles, pay attention to where it's like if somebody's potentially going to be in a wheelchair, do an opening. I can't remember what they used to call it for a lady, like in the, when you got ready in the bathroom where it was open under the sink.
Yeah, vanity, knee space Vanity.
Knee space vanity. So I've got one on my side for the wheelchair, so I can get down, And then in my case, just something that worked for us was I built, instead of just doors that go out into the bathroom, I've got one that opens up off the side that's about 6 or 7 inches deep, and we made it that cabinet a little bit wider, so the doors still have drawers that come out. I mean, not drawers, wire cabinets that come out for towels and stuff for me to access. But the side of the thing pulls up, so I can keep some pills and whatnot. I keep a hair dryer there. I keep all that. It's all hung on the wall inside that door. Now, speaking of that, something that we started doing when we were building houses that worked out, and it was for a gentleman who was quite tall. And I don't know how tall you are, but you look like you're probably 6'2", 6'3". I don't know, maybe you're not, but of course.
I'm 6'4".
6'4". Okay, well, see, I'm good guess.
Hey, you were close.
Yeah, and I'm only about 5'8" now. I used to be 5'10", but I shrank over the years. But what we did is we took, in particular, what started with this was the master bedroom was on the back side of the master bathroom on the other wall. So we did double walls, and then what we do is we put, remember the old medicine cabinets that used to be above the sink? We put those into the wall, and then we use barn door mirrors with I can't think what you call it, coving around it. My mind is like, I'm gone right now. But framed mirrors that slid back and forth in front of the medicine cabinet. Well, nobody ever knows they're there, because who's going to think? Nobody's seen a medicine cabinet above a sink in decades, probably. And so we run the sliding doors back and forth, so you can just, I can access it right there. Well, that even would be good for me. We didn't do it when we did this here back originally, but that's something we came up with for this one person. And once we started to show it, a lot of people wanted it. That kind of became a feature, but it's just an issue with ramps, door handles, where your sinks are positioned, how you're going to do anything you can think of. Worked with me or us as a builder, and my wife, because we did all our design work, all our blueprints, everything was done in house, all design work, everything, 100%. I would be talking with you, and you've told me, my parents stop on occasion, and my dad doesn't get around too good anymore. He's been on a walker for a couple of years. We get a ramp put in out at the front, along the side of the stairs, next to the stairs, a different place, on the front porch, or out of the garage, wherever you want it. It won't cost you anything. There's no charge. We need to do it for access for your parents. And, we're all getting older. You never know. And somebody down the road, when you sell your house, if you move out. But that was kind of what got us into the market we were in. My wife said something about, hey, let's build a fishing cabin. Well, a fishing cabin wasn't going to go because we got this lake not too far away, but we built a small home, and it sold. So we built, and we kept building. And it was, I lost my train of thought. I was going to about doing something for people.
You were talking about, the idea that accessibility can benefit people that are visiting or family members or people other than the people you're building the house for. And one of the things that I sometimes employ is what we call stealth marketing, because a lot of times when you bring up to people, well, you might be getting older, you might need a ramp one of these days, and people get very offended and recoil and say, how dare you call me old? And people have this whole mindset about that getting older is a terrible thing.
And it's not going to happen to them.
Yeah. Everybody wants to live a long life, but nobody wants to get older, which it doesn't make any sense at all, no. Which is exactly the reason that I wrote the book Age Out Loud. And I think that embracing your aging is a wonderful thing. Being thankful for the days and the years and the decades that we have lived. But there are a lot of people who don't embrace that mindset. And so talking about, well, if someone comes to visit you, it would be helpful. And one of the things I say all the time is that the same features that benefit someone using a wheelchair for mobility also benefit the young couple with the baby in the baby stroller. And they certainly benefit the guy delivering the refrigerator to your house. I mean, thinks that you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, that he doesn't have to carry a
Yep.
refrigerator
Yes,
up a
sir.
bunch of steps.
Yep.
So, it's the idea of universal design, and that these kinds of features, really benefit everybody. And maybe one of these days it'll catch on in the broader marketplace.
Well, on me, it didn't hurt at all because I am paralyzed and I was in a wheelchair, or I was on a walker for 18 years. Before that, I had leg braces and crutches and canes and stuff for 17 or 18 years. So when we were building, at first I started out on a walker for the first like 3 years, 3.5 years, and then I've been in a power wheelchair. Well, they can see that I'm disabled. I'm not disabled. I'm differently abled, because disabled to me is between your ears. And but call it whatever you want. It's just it's easier. It's easier for me to go over. Well, I don't have anybody that's normal, let's call it, that doesn't like to have a handle versus a knob. It's just, it looks better. It's easier. Another thing that we did, not that it's a, and you might out there where you're at, but nobody ever puts in includes hardware, nor in their homes. We don't have a builder nowhere that includes their hardware. Now but we included the hardware and we installed it, whether it was the towel rods, but we paid attention to heights. And you're taller, and I'm taller than my wife was. My wife, back when I could stand and get around even with leg braces, my side of the sink would be higher than her side, and we divided it with a cabinet, with drawers in it that had an area up on the top. So yeah, I don't know. It just everything worked out. And when we built that, we did it with the knee space because I knew at some point I would be in a wheelchair. And that was 16 years ago. So because I'd been on a walker already for 10 years, for 8 years, so I knew I was going to go downhill because of spinal cord issues and knees and whatnot. But I think it's just paying attention to anything that can be helpful. And yeah, I don't understand how somebody they want to live a long time, but they don't want to get older. That's funny, really. But I'm just trying to think. There's so much we did, like 3.0 doors everywhere, or in my office right here, I'm looking at their glass doors. I can't think what they call it, with the little lines down through them. But they're French doors that open out of my office because I'm in a wheelchair. Now, I don't need that because my front door is, well, if you got a 3.0 door, you can get through with anything from a couch to a refrigerator to whatever. But
yeah,
really try to pay attention to that, the direction of a commode, where it's going to go in. Are you going to make, that's something we got away from. We really emphasized on maximum use of space, because if you don't have a hallway, well, our hallway out here, we got a door that goes to that bathroom, we got a door that goes to this bedroom, we got a door that goes to that bedroom. So it's only 4.5 feet long. That's the only hallway in our house. And if you maximize your space, where your counters, something that, well, we did it normally, but it really helped people that had any issues with access, is make sure you got a nice overhang on your counters, like your islands. And a lot of people have really gone to the open concept. That's all we built, was a big open concept. That was the key thing. But have plenty of space so you got a good overhang. And of course, here I live in a lot of rock. So we did a lot of rock on the front or the side, the ends of the islands. But yeah, it's just paying attention to where it's going to need, the direction it places. A lot of people think you have to place your house, to us, that we would get, I want a square with a road. Well, yeah, but your view's over here. We can do a driveway that goes like that, or do a side entry, and you'll maximize your view. Let's take a look at your back porch. How are you going to access that? How are you going to get off of it? And like you said, though, it's not just about them now at the age of 40 and they're playing softball or baseball or pickleball or whatever that stuff is. I don't understand that either, but that's neither here nor there. Some people enjoy it, I guess. I I bounce the basketball back to our adopted son so he can shoot baskets, and that's the best I could do for my wheelchair, you know. But just pay attention to everything that you possibly can. I think and build it well. Building it well solves problems for them down the road. And whether it's a tankless hot water heater, and there's a lot of benefit to that. And out here where we're at, a lot of people have LP gas, some people have electric, but that's another option. It depends on what, and if, in remodeling, we've done some remodeling, not a lot, but none of it's really been for anybody that we had to address an issue of being able to get into it. One place, and they wanted to put a circular staircase in. And we said, well, what are you going to do? You're both retiring. How are you going to get the stuff up there? How are you going to get the stuff down? How are you going to get, what are you going to do down the road? Well, they ended up liking it so much and they had enough money. They went ahead and put an elevator in at a different spot. Well, that's fine. Think about that. That's accessibility, like you said. And I traveled a lot around the world, and I've pretty much quit traveling anywhere because it's like handicap accessibility, whatever that handicap might be. They think they put in a tub with a towel with a grab bar. That's a handicap accessible room. No. Or roll-in shower. Well, you can't put a $37,000 electric wheelchair in a shower. You need to be able to get off of it and get onto something in the shower. And then, you know what I mean? That it's that all thing. Showers, and then we found a place. I'm able to get, like when we did our shower. I remodeled our shower here about 7-8 years ago. Well, when I was in the wheelchair, and we just got a curtain. We only use a curtain, but I found it's about an inch wide, inch and a quarter wide, about 2 inches tall. It's a little soft rubber curbing. You might have seen it.
It's a collapsible dam. We use them all the time. It's there's a couple different styles, but like an inverted T that's made out of rubber.
Right.
And then we do the weights in the bottom of the curtain that
weights
behind that.
Weights in the bottom of the curtain.
As long as you make sure the curtain's in behind the collapsible dam, then all the water stays inside.
Mine's been doing it for 7 or 8 years and never had a drop out of it. And then at the end, of course, we have the seat that folds up or folds down. And we did the wide one with the little. It's not flat across the front. It's got a little bit of an angle. Then we found a thing too. You may have seen them where it attaches onto the wall. You do man, my mind is gone. The board's behind the wall to make sure it's got the stability, but it's about this far apart. It's about 8-10 inches apart, and it folds up or it folds down, or when you fold it up, it'll turn flush against the wall. And I'll try to send you a picture of it. You can see what I'm talking about.
But you're talking about a fold down grab bar?
It's like a fold down grab bar but it's circular like this. Okay, so you've got them, or you've seen them, or you use them. Okay, that works good for us. And when we started doing it, we were still building quite a bit, and I just told some people about it, and they said, I'd like to have one just because. Well, because a lot of people that want to have the cinder blocks put in or the thing built up for a bench in the back, that bench is there no matter what. Well, how about putting in a fold down seat? Because then you can have the whole shower. And then people start going, you know what? That makes more sense. It's just, and so women use it to shave their legs and they do whatever. Maybe they just want to sit in the shower for a little bit. And then, of course, when we got a shower head up here, then one off to the left that is hand controlled, because if you've traveled, like I travel, when I did, you get into a shower, you got to reach the shower head on the rod that goes up and down, but it's way at the other end of the shower. You can't reach it when you're paralyzed, and then you can't reach the handle to turn it on. And so it's handier to have it right here. Then you put in your shampoo niches, 2 or 3 of those. So the bathroom and the kitchen are probably the 2 most important, and then in and out of the house.
Right.
I think those.
Well, Jay, so much of what we're talking about here is just common sense. If you just take a minute and you think about what it would be like to sit in a certain position, and what can you reach, what can't you reach, what can you control from a seated position. And one of the things we do, I teach the CAPS class. I've got a class next week, Certified Aging in Place Specialist. And one of the things we do is the explore. It's called Exploring Disability, where we get some wheelchairs and some walkers and some crutches, and we have people move around the space and go into the bathroom and try to feel what it might feel like to be in somebody's shoes, even just for a short period of time. And one of the illustrations I like to use is that disability is not so much an inability to do a thing, it's a disconnect between a person's ability and their environment. So if I walk up to a home and the home has 7-foot tall steps instead of 7-inch tall steps, then I'm disabled in relation to that home. I can't climb a 7-foot tall step. And by the same token, if a home that is designed for your particular abilities, that makes it seamless and easy for you to move around and use the features of that home, then you are not disabled in relation to that home. And so if we create homes that are designed and built in a manner that serves the people who are living there and is supportive of them in their particular needs, then we have enabled them to be able, enabled them to function in that environment. And like I said, it's common sense, but you have to take the time to think about how someone else might function in that space.
And it doesn't, when it's done the way you're talking about for that person to use it with their different abilities, it doesn't make it any less convenient for the person that doesn't have anything wrong with them. Nothing.
Right.
Maybe it makes it easier and they find it more convenient. I have never done a class like you're doing, and that wasn't our intent. We started building homes we built a smaller to mid-size home, and we did it for people that were downsizing, which were older as a rule, widows, widowers, divorcees, divorced guys, young families bought some that were coming up, they wanted something very nice, but they couldn't afford a multi-million-dollar home. And you find I've been in multi-million-dollar homes they're the biggest piece of junk I've ever seen. They're terrible. They're worse than a track home built by some not good builders. But I want to make a comment. I've done some speaking to groups, and what I've done is take pieces of wood, like say a half-inch piece of wood by 2 inches, and a couple of them, and I wrap it around. I have somebody wrap it around the person's leg, and then use an ACE bandage, and then I put an AFO. You know what an AFO? It goes on your foot to keep your foot drop from doing. Or we put something on their shoe or foot to make it immobilized, and then do something with their arm. But we make them kind of immobile, or that they can't get around very well at all. And now come out on the stage. Well, they can't even walk on the stage. Now they got to be. So we've done that, showing people that, hey, not in a home setting, but it was very effective. And that's been like you putting people in a wheelchair and say, hey, you're in this, you cannot get out. You can't walk. What are you going to do? And what if they only have one arm that works? What if they don't have either arm that works? What if they have to be dependent upon somebody to push them all the time? Or they're in a power wheelchair. Mine, it's the unfortunate thing about it is it's bigger than a wheelchair, so you can't get into it. Now, they make smaller chairs, but they don't make them that are as dynamic as this is, that raise and lower and do some of the other stuff. And I got this through the Veterans Administration, of course, but, but yeah, I think that's a great idea that what you're doing to show them, but it makes it just as convenient. There's no inconvenience to make it more accessible to begin with.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's the idea of universal design, that if it's done well, it's not noticeable until you go to use the feature. It is, and that's part of the resistance a lot of people have to accessible design, is they feel like it's going to be institutional looking. They feel like it's going to make their home look like a hospital or something of that nature. It doesn't have to. There's products on the market that you can do it, very accessible and very tasteful and very aesthetically pleasing all at the same time.
Well, that's just like getting back to what you were talking about with the shower, with the fold down. I don't even think I've had it for so long. I don't even think about it. When we put them in, probably 10 or 15 homes. Once people saw it, because I would show them a picture of it, and we actually brought to my house and just, oh my gosh, this is a lot. I like this, honey. What do you think? Now the shower's longer. I don't have that thing there that it's permanent. I don't have to worry about falling down and breaking my head on it because it folds up if I want it out of the way. And my shower is bigger than normal. And it's I think 4x6. We just did it that to begin with.
Right.
Because I had the option. But even a 3x5, which is pretty much standard, but yeah, I agree 100%. I think what you're doing is very commendable, especially holding these classes and showing that this, as you call it, universal accessibility. It's a good term.
Yeah.
It's a good term.
Yeah. And, I think that it's slowly starting to seep into the consciousness. I mean, we see more 3.0 doors. We still don't see a whole lot of 0-step entries going into homes. You usually have to put a ramp on it because they're very seldom built where you've got a 0-step way to get in the house without steps.
Right.
Every now and then you'll see one. And, certainly the idea of, curbless showers are kind of trendy. Barn doors are kind of trendy right now. So some of those are make it a little easier where you don't have to, open the door and get around the door and pull it shut behind you,
right.
Kind of thing. But, one of the things we look at is like, rather than just look at the clearances, is look at more of a mobility flow plan. Like, how do you move through the house? Are there, is a door swing in the way of getting through that opening? Do you have to go around it and then pull it shut behind you? Are there bottlenecks? Are there places that are constricting in terms of moving seamlessly through the space? And so just being more aware of the way a home is set up.
Well, it's what you just mentioned, barn doors. Now, when I finally got to a wheelchair and I had fallen a couple of times on my walker, I was able to get up back then. Now I can't anymore. So we addressed the issue when we took the 3.0 out and put a barn door in from the bedroom to the bathroom. The master, we did it because if I would have fallen somehow, some way against the door and they couldn't get it open or they couldn't and I've had that happen twice in hotel rooms. Once where I was on a scooter and the scooter, I don't know whatever happened, but I fell out of it. Well, the door for the shower opened towards the door that came into the room. And you couldn't break into the room because the door was open because I was laying in front of it.
Yeah.
And here I was mostly paralyzed. So, I mean, it took a lot. I mean, they almost got their axes out and started chopping holes in it, or whatever they had to do. So, yeah, your barn doors, as much as I don't like them because I was raised on a big farm and barn doors have a different connotation compared to they do on a machine shed, it's like they weren't as tight, they weren't attractive or whatever, but that's a good observation too, because that's just like you say, the flow. And that's what we pay attention to, is to use the word. I've not used it like that, but it's like the flow of getting to something. What's successful? I remember a few people that we had suggested. One lady was pretty short, had a little problem reaching stuff. So we put their instead of in the middle of the sink, behind the sink tub, we put it on the end. And then they just had the farm sink type thing, which I don't care for them as much because it takes so much water to put in them and you got to burn up a lot of water. And, but but we did that just to where they could access it easier. She could just stand there and go like this rather than trying to reach over something. There's a lot of different things, but I think, the universal accessibility, there's too many people out there in general that they're in it just nothing but for the money.
And well, and if you think about why we do things a certain way, why do we build houses, a certain way? Well, part of it's just because that's the way it's always been done, or it's been done recently that way, and that's what everybody's used to. And if you just step back and think about it for a minute, well, maybe there's a better way. Maybe there's a more user-friendly way. Maybe there's a more efficient way. Maybe there's a way that works better for a particular, client or a particular homeowner.
Right.
And, rather than just lockstep, we just well, that's the way we do it. And, we were talking before we started recording about how, a lot of times the big production builders, they have everything dialed down to the penny on what it's going to cost them to do a house, and to change things. It disrupts their whole flow and their whole way of doing things.
Right.
Whereas for a custom builder who's more in tune to taking the time to understand the proclivities of a particular client, much more in tune with, we're going to change things around, and we're going to do things in a way that serves what you want. So, but one is certainly more efficient. If you're building thousands of houses versus you're building one at a time, it's a different
animal to begin with. But, and some of the words you were saying before is in this book that I've written here not too long ago, that I talk about. It's not just why ask why not say why not? And that gets back to, well, why not do it this way? Because you were just talking about mindset and how they've done it this way for so long. It's like, I find it ridiculous that everybody thinks that they got to put the sink, the toilet, and the shower. And you can't get to the toilet if you're in a wheelchair. You can't even access it on a walker, maybe. And then you got the shower, so you can't get in the shower, even if you got one of those little things that you can screw the legs on and set it in the shower, so you could pull up beside it in your wheelchair to slide onto it to get your legs up over it to get in the shower. It's ridiculous. So that's where we've had some people that we've built the commodes wide enough to put a wheelchair on either side of it, because it's not that much different. It's not that much different.
Well, and so many bathrooms have a 2.0 door, so you're not even getting in the room in the first place to even have any of those challenges, because you can't get through the door.
Well, I think it's been a long time. Well, the last time I had a bathroom like that, I wasn't even on a walker. I was using my crutches and leg braces. So, but ever since then, I mean, for decades, I've been 3.0 doors everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, that makes a huge difference. And with a barn door, you can make a custom barn door too. You can make it a 4-foot door, a 5-foot door. You can make it whatever size you want. That has no bearing. So instead of like my French doors here, I've got a wall that goes this way, but there's the art niche over here to my left as I'm looking out. So that would cover up the art niche, but only when the door was open. But so, depending on where it is, but yeah, if you do it for the client, that's where the people have gotten away from doing it for the people to help the people. And I've always felt the more people you help, the better person you become. And the more you learn and the more you can help other people. And they're appreciative, not only appreciative, they'll tell other people, because it's like when we were building, 75% of what we did it was all referral. And about another 15% were people we built another home for, or their kids, or their parents. So it was interesting. What else are you doing out there that is something that is, you talk about this class? I think that's a great idea, to let them negotiate around through it.
Well, I teach the class. In my construction business, we do a lot of remodeling and build some new homes. We do a lot of grant work for disabled veterans. There's the Special Adapted Housing Grant that we participate with. There's the HISA grant. And here in Virginia, we have Granting Freedom. So we do a lot of aging in place work in remodeling and construction. And I also have the book out, Age Out Loud, How to Live a Purposeful and Fulfilling Life in the Years That Matter Most. And so I spent a lot of time promoting my book and talking about how we can change the trajectory of our life by the way that we set our intention and our mindset on who we want to be and how we want to live. And every fact in our life, it has a positive and a negative. We can look at the things that maybe didn't work out in our favor and be distraught and upset about that, or we can choose to be grateful for the things that we have to be grateful for. And a big part of that understanding for me came several years ago when I lost my wife to lung cancer, and she was 55 years old. And I thought, man, that's just way too young. And, I was devastated and broken. And for months after that, I was just in a fog and walking around. It just didn't know my purpose, didn't know, what am I going to do now? Who am I now? And one day I'm walking by the river and it just hit me that when we first got married, she was 22 at the time and she was diagnosed with encephalitis. And she went in the hospital. She lost her vision. She had seizures. She lost her speech. And it occurred to me, if someone had told me at that time, she's not going to die, she's going to live 33 more years, and you're going to have 3 more children together, I would have been ecstatic. So it struck me that I had a choice. I could focus on the fact that she died at 55, or I could be thankful for the 33 years we had together.
Sure.
And that was a choice that I could control. And ultimately, that is the only thing that we can ultimately control, is our response to the things that life sends our way. Because, all of us, and you can relate to this probably better than most, life sends you things that you wouldn't have chosen. But looking back, it's those things that were most difficult. It's those things that were most tragic and were the hardest to overcome at the time that molded us into the person that knew how to overcome and knew how to take on the next chapter that life sends our way, and that can speak hope and blessing and substance into the lives of others because of the challenges and the difficulties and the hardships that we have been through.
So grateful that I'm alive. I mean, I should have been ground up as like hamburger in a feeding auger when I was 17. I died in the Marine Corps when I was 19. I died from a drunk driver when I was 23. He stayed dead. I broke my neck and drowned when I was 31. I've had 73 surgeries. I should have been dead multiple other times from COVID 5 years ago. In my wife had it. They had ivermectin. She got over it real quick. 5 days, she was done. A week and a half later, they took me in. I didn't feel bad at all, but I was 20 points below on blood oxygen, below a major heart attack, and I was 71. I'm 76 now. And they said they sent her home to make funeral arrangements. Said he won't make it through the week. I went in on a Monday. He will not make it through the week. He's already had punctured lungs from, Marine Corps. He's drowned. He's got all these problems. But, I'm so grateful to be here. And like you use the word grateful, be grateful for what you got. Not, count the things you've got left, not what you've lost. That's just the key thing, in my mind. And that's why I wrote the little book that I did, The Strength Within You, and It's Always Too Soon to Quit. It's not so much what's happened to me, although I put that in to show an example. It's what you get through and what you do with what you've got left. And the obstacles, the bigger the obstacles, just gives you and I are a product, both of us, everybody is a product of the choices they've made, the obstacles they've overcome, or they've given up on, one of the two, but that's what they're a product of. And I feel very adamant about that issue because there's not many people out there that, I'm going to just throw this out because it's a thing that, my mom told me many, many, many years ago when I had been hurt. I think it was the second time, I think in the drunk driver, she just said something about, I wish I could take your pain. I wish I could, how moms are like that. It's like,
right.
I wish I could take your pain, son. Maybe she said it to you when you were 9 or something. Somebody punched you or whatever. But if you were big like then, they probably didn't. But, I've wondered philosophically, have I gone through all of these things repeatedly? Because God's never going to give me anything more than I can't handle. And I'm going to fight through it. I just philosophically, sometimes I wonder, have I incurred a lot of this because somebody else couldn't have handled it and the Lord knew that I could, and I end up taking the brunt of it because they couldn't. It's just kind of a harebrained thought, but still.
Well, there's a passage in the Bible where Peter and John they thank God that they were counted worthy to suffer for the name. So,
Well, there you go. Same thing.
right. So, I mean, we can speculate on all of those things, and we probably won't really have an answer to any of it. And maybe it doesn't matter. But the point is that each of us has, a hand that we're dealt in life. And, we can either play that hand the best that we know how and, move forward, or, we can complain about it, but it's not going to do any good. Right. I mean, it's just going to make us.
I had a saying for years. They said something about how you doing today. Well, I could complain about it, but it's not going to do me any good. So I may as well move on. It's like,
and nobody wants to listen to that anyway. So, well, we're about out of time, Jay. So,
okay.
Let me know. I mean, if people want to get a hold of your book or hear more about your story, how do they go about that?
Sure. They can find the book, The Strength Within You. That isn't what I got on here for. But The Strength Within You, It's Always Too Soon to Quit's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Or I've got a website. It's called neverquittrying.com. It's pretty original.
I love it.
And I got a contact sheet on there. They can get the book there or send me an email. But I like the fact that you're out there. I've got some people who live out in your direction. I'm going to have to reach out to them too, because one guy's got we'll connect. We'll connect back more about where you're at exactly.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah,
because
send me an email.
Do you cover a pretty good size area with your projects, or are you pretty well limited?
We're in the Roanoke, Virginia area, and we do about an hour's drive, but I do have a fairly strong network and can often find somebody in different areas that we can partner with.
That's we kind of stayed semi-local within even 15 or 20 minutes, just half hour. But no, I just wondered, but no, I think you're onto something you call it something a little bit different with the universal than what we did, but we just fell into it because of my disability. Right. It's kind of what you did, looking back at what your wife had been through, and why not? Why not move forward? But
sure.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good day.
You're onto something, man. God bless you for doing it.
For watching. Aging in Place is a team sport.